CG Tuscaloosa. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 HD2 Northport and W265CG Tuscaloosa. A Town Square Media Station. You can forget about it. Touchdown, Alabama. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Alabama 1st and 10 on the 12. Again, Houston. He's got a hole. He's over. Alabama touchdown.
I'm just wondering if your listeners know how good a football player you were. I can still see you playing that fullback, knocking those players out of the way. And that I believe I could have run behind you.
Martin, I can remember when we came to summer and you were playing fullback up there, and I saw you in the weight room and watched you work out in the weight room. And you were strong enough to pick up the whole weight room. I wanted to fix it, and I running back coach didn't take the biggest mistake we ever made.
The Martin Houston Show with national championship winning fullback Martin Houston, giving you 1 hour of intense, hard-hitting analysis from an insider's perspective. It's time for the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Good morning. Welcome into the Martin Houston Show on Tide 100.9. It is a beautiful Tuesday morning. Glad to have you. James, can you turn down this feedback on this side of the house? Welcome back into the show for another edition of the Martin Houston Show. The Sound of Bama Sports. Your show, your team. Love to hear from you. 205-342-9904. 205-342-9904. That is the Taco Casa hotline. It is open for business. Go visit Taco Casa, quality, taste, value under the biggest cactus in town. Lunch and dinner options. 6 locations in Tuscaloosa, West Alabama, and Northport area to better serve you. That's Taco Casa, tacocasa.com. Today's program, we will be featuring DC Capstone Report will join us as a guest host in the second quarter, and he'll be with us the remainder of the show. Until then, and even once he's on the air, you're always welcome to be a part of the program as well. We're looking for more conversation around the NFL draft. We'll get his thoughts on the Dylan Moses saga. We'll get his takeaways from the draft, winners, losers, etc. Takeaways, bad and ugly. And we'd love to hear yours. We didn't get too much more yesterday than the Dylan Moses story. I have not verified this, and maybe you have. I didn't spend any time on it yesterday, but I had heard that Dylan had an insurance policy. I know he had one the year before. I'd heard he had one this year. I had a listener send me and say he's going to take advantage of that insurance policy from Lords of London. If you can verify that story, I'll put you on the air and let you talk about it. James, have you heard whether or not Dylan kept that insurance policy in terms of falling in the draft?
Yeah, so based on what I'm seeing this morning, and even yesterday as well, it looks like Dylan Moses is going to be getting a payout of around $12 million after a loss of value claim against an insurance carrier. So that is what's being reported at this time.
Yeah, and that's what, and that's what, when people say James, they're surprised. They're not surprised that he fell. Let me tell you, it's a surprise that he fell. Companies don't write policies that they think they're gonna have to cash out on in that scenario. You see what I'm saying? Their people vetted him and still issued that policy because they thought they got enough information to feel good that there was a high likelihood that he would, you know, be drafted where they say or close to where they were projecting, um, if this proves to be true. I said I knew for sure he had one last year, and I was hoping he had one this year, but I had not heard it really being reported until after I got off the air yesterday. So I'm hoping that proves to be the case for his sake, and the sting of the Dylan Moses saga will not be as bad. Now, a lot of times, if you've listened to my show, you've heard me say I hate the term when they use the term "he fell in the draft" or "he fell in the draft." Um, a lot of times when we say "fall in the draft," we're talking about first rounders. For the most part, like when I hear people say Mac Jones fell in the draft, James, did he really fall in the draft? Did he?
I mean, it's tough because you look at how the draft went, and just hindsight now is 2020, of course, but you know it was projected for him to go to 3 in some drafts, and then in other drafts they had the Panthers taking him, and the Bears traded up, so maybe there was whispers of that. So I can understand why people would think that, but I think honestly he went exactly where he should go and where the need was.
But
I think,
why do we say he failed? Because we bought into the one that said he was going in the third round. I mean, going number 3,
well, it
right?
wasn't one person. I mean, it was a lot. There were a
There were a
lot
lot
of
of people that said 3, right?
right.
But there was also people that said he would even get drafted in the first round,
Yeah, I didn't
right?
see that as much as him going 3. I
I'm
saw
not
him.
saying how much. I'm saying we say he failed because someone who is not drafting told us he was going to go in the third round. I mean, number 3. If we woke up today and we had never heard a projection after watching Mac Jones play last year, and we had not seen any projections, if there was not people making money by telling us where kids are going to get drafted, would we say Mac Jones fell in the draft, or would we say Mac Jones was drafted probably in the absolute single best place for him? Think
Yeah, I
about
mean,
that. You see what I'm saying?
yeah, the argument makes sense. It's just I think a lot of times, and we do this too in media.
No,
We
that's what
say
I'm saying is we're the ones that make him fall because of
right,
our hype, because of our conversation.
right.
A kid going number 15 in a draft who started one season is not a fall.
No, and honestly, I think Mac is going to get the better end of the deal because, again, I know there's a lot of folks who are, wondering did Tom Brady make Bill Belichick, and it seems like it, but now Bill Belichick's going to have a chance to maybe put some of those rumors to bed if he could take Mac Jones and make him, even if he's just good, even if he's not great, if he's good, then I think some of those conversations will be different. I'm not saying Mac is the next Tom Brady, but I think there's a lot to like with Mac to the Patriots. And I think with their quarterback situation right now with Cam Newton, I think Mac's going into a very good situation, and he's a very hard worker, and that's what they wanted.
Yeah, the guy that Mac Jones was most compared to in this entire draft was Tom Brady. So, and for him to end up with the Patriots, I think was an absolute gold mine fit. I just like pointing out that we sometimes make these kids, instead of celebrating the way we report it, he fell in the draft. Well, truthfully, Devontae Smith fell in the draft based on what we were saying at the beginning of the draft. The beginning of the draft process, he went number 10. I mean, it's just craziness to think. Dylan Moses fell. I mean,
did it surprise you that Devontae was drafted after Jalen? Because I know when we were doing our draft show, I was really surprised by that. I thought Jalen was actually going to go to the Eagles and Devontae was going to go to Miami with Tua, but I kind of like what we got. But did it surprise you that Jalen was before Devontae there?
It didn't surprise me because people started talking. I'm going to tell you what I said, though, and I sent this to Joe during the show, James. I said I forgot just how good Jalen Waddle was. I really forgot. And let me tell you why I think he went in front of Devontae. I think he's perceived as more of a versatile weapon. I don't think it's because he's perceived as a better wide receiver than Devontae, but I think thanks to the exploits of Tyreek Hill at Kansas City, the Dolphins have made it plain that they think they got the next Tyreek Hill in Jalen Waddle. So I think is what he brought to the table outside of just route running. But man, when they went back and showed those highlights, I just forgot how good he was. And some people don't think he's going to return kicks. I think the Dolphins are going to use him every way they can to try to get him out there. And if somebody can do a pretty close job, then he won't be returning kicks all the time. But don't be surprised by that. Let me ask you a question before. I was not surprised, James, to answer your question, by the time it happened. But if you had told me at the end of the season that he would go in front of him, I would have told you were crazy. So let me tell you the biggest waste of time of the NFL draft. The first 10 minutes of the draft. Right?
Right.
I'm always amazed. Everybody in America knew that Trevor Lawrence was going to be the first pick. And there was not going to be any trade made that would change that. And I made the point. I said Trevor Lawrence had been the number one pick since he was in the 8th grade, James.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you there. It would have taken an absolute miracle to get that pick from Jacksonville.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about this kid since he was in the 8th grade. We've been talking about him being the first overall pick when he was eligible. And he had done nothing to change our minds on that. And I'm like, why are we taking 10 minutes to take this pick? But I will say this, and I'll ask DC, to me, the second most surefire pick in the entire draft was Najee to the Steelers if he was on the board.
Absolutely.
I think Trevor Lawrence was the most for sure pick. And then if it was available, I think that Najee to the Steelers was probably the second biggest pick, most surefire pick of all of the conversation. We're like, yep, he's going to the Steelers. He's going to the Steelers. Others, even the Jets, that everybody felt good about that they were going to take Zach Wilson. It still wasn't like, yeah, this is an absolute for sure can't miss type of pick. I believe people think, even though they don't like running backs in the first round, I still think people felt like that he's a surefire thing at running back to the Steelers as much as they feel like Trevor Lawrence is a surefire thing at quarterback. So I thought that those two picks were surefires, but I thought the biggest waste of time of the night was the Jaguars took the full 10 minutes. And maybe the only team that took the full 10 minutes to kick the draft off. That's when you know production, James goes into the NFL draft as much as who you're going to pick. So,
drama, Martin.
absolutely.
Especially with your point, there were 2 surefire picks in 32 picks. That means you had no idea. Nobody could have predicted, and I know there were some that said it, but nobody could have guessed that the Chicago Bears would have traded up so that they could get their franchise quarterback in Justin Fields. I mean, that was the steal of the draft for me. But it's all about entertainment. It's just as much entertainment today as anything else that we watch on TV.
Yeah, and not just that. What about the Cowboys? We can talk more about this with DC, but we also got a couple callers that's holding. We'll get to you guys. What about the Cowboys trading with the Eagles? Oh my God! I'm like, how do you trade with? That's like Alabama giving Auburn a chance to get their biggest need. But anyway, the Cowboys did it.
Well, they got Michael Parsons too, and I think that's a great pickup for the Cowboys.
Yeah.
They really went defense big time.
Yeah, but they could have got Michael at that spot, but they got him lower. But they gave the Eagles a chance to get Devontae. But we'll see how it all works out in the draft. A lot of information. We're going to talk to DC Capstone report coming up next. Lake Martin, John, Pat, hold on through the break. We'll get you in on the conversation as well.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
From the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center, no wrecks. The traffic looks good as we start our Tuesday morning. We do expect rain, in fact, some heavy at times, so please drive carefully. And if you see conditions, give us a call. Now's the time to trade in and trade up to a brand new Nissan at your hometown dealer, Townsend Nissan. I'm Captain Ray.
Under the biggest cactus in town, Taco Casa. Quality is number one. You got to start with a good quality product, but it's got to be at a good value to the customers.
Everything is about quality.
You just can't beat the quality, taste, and value.
And it's because we take pride in providing you with the best.
Good customer service and good food, good quality.
We want to make sure that we give that to them each and every time they come and visit us. The sense of pride that we have in the quality, the consistency of our food carries over to everything we do in the stores. That's Taco Casa.
Let Spa Bella V pamper her this Mother's Day. Give her a gift card that she can use for any of her favorite products and services, including massages, facials, laser hair removal, manicures, pedicures, micropeels, and more. She deserves to be pampered this Mother's Day. Let her rejuvenate her mind and body with a gift card from Spa Bella V. Locally owned by board-certified plastic surgeon Dr. Ross Bunch in the Falls at North River. Call 349-0046. Online at spabellavie.com.
Hey, we get it. You don't want to be hearing a Progressive commercial right now, so let us tell you something you do want to hear. You are powerful. You're a warrior who bathes in your enemy's tears. Then you step out of that refreshing tear bath and into a bathrobe that somehow looks good on you. Yeah, you can pull off a robe. There. Don't you feel better? You'll also feel better when you save money for driving safely with Snapshot from Progressive. Savings you can use to buy more robes. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Snapshot not available in California, North Carolina, or from all agents.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Mostly cloudy, warm, and humid today. Occasional showers and thunderstorms are likely through tonight. The storms could be severe with potential for large hail, damaging wind, possibly a few isolated tornadoes. The high today 84, tonight's low 61. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 75 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Scott Smith and Sophmark Design, doing business for 17 plus years, specializing in graphic design services, commercial printing, promotional products, advertising specialties, and so much more. Basically, any and everything you would need to advertise, promote, and grow your business. Through strong partnerships, strong customer service, and creative ideas, they'll help you market and grow your business. Give Scott a call at 205-292-4680 or email scottis@comcast.net and visit them online at southmarkdesign.com.
Interact with the Martin Houston Show by calling us at 205-342-9904 or tuning into the Martin Houston Show on Facebook.
You're back in with the Martin Houston Show. Thanks to the great folks over at Alabama One Insurance. AlabamaOneInsurance.com is where you can find us online. Get a quote and see how much you can save. Home, auto, life, and commercial. Compare insurance quotes with Alabama One Insurance. We'll do the shopping for you. All you have to do is give us a call at 205-342-0122 profilinsurance.com and put in your zip code, the type of insurance you're looking, click quote it, fill out the information. That'll send it over to us, and we'll be back in touch with you to get that quote solidified. That's Alabama One Insurance, your one source for all your insurance needs. And while you're visiting Alabama One, don't forget about the great mortgage offer that's happening over at Alabama One Credit Union. Big dreams, bigger savings, up to $2,000 cash back, no admin nor processing fees. That's Alabama One Insurance, Alabama One together. Let's get to DC Capstone report. Good morning, DC. How you doing, sir? Doing well. Let me give you some numbers I ran across DC and see what you think about this right here. Nick Saban is said to be the greatest coach strictly because he's able to recruit at a high level, and he's proving that he's able to recruit at a high level by getting the best classes year in and year out. But with the numbers he's sending into the NFL for the fifth straight year, 9 or more players going to the league, and people say, well, he just rebuilds while everybody else, if they get hit, they end up with fewer players. Here's a statistic. Of the top 20 teams, if you take Alabama out, with total number of players taken in the draft, DC, 8 of the top 20 teams that had players drafted was on this past year's schedule. If you take the top 10, you had 6. If you take the top 5 teams, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Georgia, Florida, and Michigan, 4 of those were on Alabama's schedule. If you take the top 6 teams outside of Alabama, you add LSU in, and it's 6. Ohio State had 10, Notre Dame had 9, Georgia had 9, Florida had 8, Michigan had 8, and LSU had 7. And Alabama absolutely destroyed every single one of those teams. Does that make, when you see how many NFL level talent players that Alabama took down this year in their opposing rosters, does it make this past season even more impressive?
Sure, when you look at those numbers, you have to say how impressive it is to Alabama to do what they did against the competition they played, and a full 10-game SEC schedule to boot. I mean, no team's ever done that, and Alabama just each thing that comes out, you can see how great this actual team was that won that championship.
Right. Absolutely. Hey, let's go ahead and get it. We got a couple callers for you. Let's go ahead and get them in. Lake Martin John, you're in with DC. What's on your mind, sir?
DC, Martin, good morning, my friends.
Good morning.
Hey, listen, now all my life I've heard of, the relationship between the quarterbacks and the receivers and how it's special. They show up during the off season and work out together. And I've been told, that it's timing, that once the QB and the receivers work out the timing, that it's a piece of cake after that, and they have to know each other. So all that is said just to ask you, my favorite teams this year, I think, are going to be Philadelphia and Miami, because I'm looking forward to Jalen and Devontae and Tua and Jalen. So talk a little bit, since y'all got some experience on the field. Talk about that relationship, and is it the most critical relationship on the field?
I'll let you go, DC. Good question.
Well, I think it's definitely a critical relationship. I think that there has to be a good relationship between the wide receiver and the quarterback. There has to be trust involved. There's also got to be timing involved. So I think it's one of the most important relationships. I think that also in the center and the quarterback, really good relationship as well. But yeah, I think it's great when you can go to a team where you've played with them before and know how they play. And I don't think anybody was happier than Tua and Jalen to see Devontae and Jalen Waddle coming to your team. I think
that's what I wanted to know. can that hold over from college? Can that? Oh yeah, we've done this before. Can that hold over in the NFL?
I think there's no doubt about that. I mean, you saw it with Cincinnati taking Jamar Chase. You'll see the same thing with Devontae and Jalen, and also with Jalen and Tua. I think you'll see it happen in the NFL.
I think like Martin John, I think the Jamar Chase tells you that whether we believe it can happen or not, when you have a quarterback that you spend as much money as the Bengals spent on Burrow, and you know you need offensive line help, you believe that the timing of the quarterback position with the wide receiver can potentially save you as many sacks as the right left tackle, because it's obvious Burrow's got hit more than any quarterback in the league in his short time before he was injured, but yet they chose instead of taking the number one tackle off the board, they took who they believed to be the number one wide receiver to get him a weapon. And let me give you a on the field real life example of just how I didn't see Joe Montana throw to Jerry Rice, okay, but I did see Steve Young throw to Jerry Rice in person, okay, in person, and just the timing. I was watching Darren, what was his name? Woodson was the one of the top cornerbacks in the country, in the league, and he would have Jerry Rice blanketed, like covered. But Steve Young would throw the ball, and Jerry would look like he was running straight down the field. And then at the last moment, he would make his cut, and there was nothing the DB could do. He would be in perfect coverage, but because the quarterback and the receiver trusted each other so much, they knew he threw it to a spot on a certain click. It was 1,001, 1,002, 1,003, throw it, he cut. I mean, it was just the timing. And so that timing builds the trust, and the trust is what the DBs can't cover. So I totally think it's worth it. And I don't think we've ever seen a scenario where we saw so many guys get reunited in the quarterback, wide receiver, or quarterback, running back position as we saw this past year. I think it happened 4 or 5 times in this one draft.
That's what caught my attention when I started realizing what was going on. I said, there must be something to that relationship. And boy, you're exactly right. I'm really looking forward to the. I never thought about the aspect of if the QB can get rid of the ball quicker, it'll make up for the lack of offensive linemen. I mean, it's perfect sense and all, but I've never really looked at it from that point of view. Give him some help getting rid of the ball. So,
well,
anyway,
sometimes I appreciate. Sometimes, like Martin John, the sack happens because the guy isn't getting open, or they don't trust the receiver, and they hold it too long.
That's excellent.
Yes, sir.
That's why I call in, gentlemen. I appreciate y'all. I pray God's blessings on you. Have a good day.
And we pray for you and praying for your wife. Love you, man. Talk to you later, late Martin. All right. Hey, let's get to Pat. Pat, you in with DC Capstone Report. What's on your mind?
Good morning, fellas.
Good morning.
Good morning, DC.
Good morning, Pat.
Good morning. Hey, mate, do you agree with me that perhaps Mac Jones is the best long ball thrower we've seen in any year or the last 30 years?
I think he's up there, Pat. I think his accuracy on the long ball is what he may not have the strongest arm, but he has the most accuracy on the long ball that I've seen in quite some time. So yeah, I'd have to agree with you on that, Stan.
I don't understand. You know, I realize about zipping the ball across the field from one side to the other, that kind of thing for arm strength. But his accuracy on balls that were over 30 yards, nobody in the
NCAA
football, yes, nobody in college football had that many balls over 30 yards that he did.
All right, Pat, let me ask you a question. Do you think it's possible, though, and DC, you can come in on this. James, you're welcome to jump in as well. Do you think it's possible because you look at when Jalen threw the ball to Devontae Smith, when Tua threw the ball to Devontae Smith, and when Mac Jones threw to Devontae Smith, the ball never hit the ground, that they may have given some of those deep balls more credit to, and this is what people don't realize, the wide receiver's ability to track the ball. When you hear teams say he has the ability to track the ball, you know that a wide receiver's route running can help the quarterback's accuracy. Some guys don't know how to settle into their route on a deep ball. Some guys don't know how to kick it into that next gear. Some guys are inconsistent in how they run their routes and their timing. So maybe that hurt Mac in that view, because Devontae Smith was a deep ball threat no matter who. When you look at Tua's ball, you go back and look at Tua's ball on that 2nd and 26. Watch Devontae Smith kick it in and go out and extend and get that ball. It was a perfect pass, but how much of that was also on Devontae Smith route running?
Devontae Smith, exactly my point. That's the other thing I wanted to talk about was, hey, Joe Namath had a guy named Don Maynard. I think he wore number 13, I believe he did. And he would run under those balls. There was a fellow named, maybe maybe, anyway, there was a fellow named Harold Carmichael.
Yep.
Harold Carmichael would run under as an Eagle. He made me actually like the Eagles. Carmichael did.
Yeah.
And but you mentioned Jerry Rice. Jerry Rice was extremely special. I saw him from the time he came out of college, and he went to a school that was unheard of. I've actually taken a few classes when I was over in the Mississippi Delta there, and Jerry Rice was special, Martin. Hey, I mean,
yeah, he was.
he made those quarterbacks look really, really good. And even the great Snake had his Blitnikoff and he had his wide receivers that were special.
Yeah.
And that wide receiver makes a quarterback look good, but the quarterback's got to get some credit too.
Oh, I think Mac Jones. I agree with you. I agree with you on Mac Jones throwing a pretty deep ball. I wasn't disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that sometimes, though, things that we don't break down when the NFL starts looking at stuff, they see that side that we don't always see in the game. We just see it. Wow, what a beautiful pass by Mac Jones, and we may not see and notice that the wide receiver adjusts his route, slows down, speeds up. Coming out, how he comes out of his breaks, that trust factor we were talking about. Thanks, Pat. Appreciate it.
Well, hey, one last question, real quick.
Go ahead.
How long is it going to take for New England to get a weapon for him, for Mac Jones?
I think they've done a little bit in the offseason trying to put some weapons on the team to help out Cam Newton, and I think they can do the same thing for Mac Jones. It just depends on if they're willing to make a trade in the offseason or not.
I think they I don't know who, I did not see who, but I know they said that they improved at tight end. And I don't know who they got. I have not looked at their roster, but I know that they spent $165 million supposedly in guaranteed money. A team that never spent money at that level when they had Tom Brady set the record this year. So I think they've already gone a long way to get back on track in New England, doing what they have to do to win.
Talking about being comfortable, I think y'all need to remember also that Damian Harris is there in New England for Mac Jones to be comfortable with getting him out of the backfield. I think he has a lot bigger role this year.
All right. Good deal. Thank y'all, boy. Thank you, fellas. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Before we go to break, do either one of you want to comment on the deep ball thing, or go ahead, James?
Guys, is that this argument kind of reminds me of which came first, the chicken or the egg, because there's just it just seems like there's no winning answer.
Right.
It's the quarterback is just as important to the wide receiver as the wide receiver is important to the quarterback.
Right.
It takes a really good wide receiver to make a quarterback look really good, and it takes a really good quarterback to make a wide receiver really good. I mean, you look at Mike Evans and Jameis Winston. Jameis is he's got his flaws, obviously, but Mike Evans and Chris Godwin made him look phenomenal at times because of their athleticism and how good that they are.
Correct.
So, I mean, it's just there's no really winning argument to make here. It takes both the quarterback and the wide receiver being on the same page to make that marriage work.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
I think that argument that James just made there solidifies our argument, Martin, that the quarterback and the wide receiver relationship is important, and that's what the NFL sees in putting these people together.
Yep, absolutely. And that's why you see such think about this, James. Burrows and Chase, Waddle and Tagovailoa, and you have Jalen and Smith. And I think there was one other relationship. And then I know you have in the running back relationship, you got Mac Jones and wasn't Damian Harris, and then you have Trevor Lawrence and ETN. So at least 5 connections of skill position to quarterback, and with the running back is much more of a weapon in the passing game in the new NFL game as he is running the ball a lot of times. So the NFL definitely showing some favoritism there. Coming back on the other side, we're going to get DC's thoughts, takeaways, winners, losers, good, bad, and ugly on the NFL draft. Do you want to get in on the conversation? The phone lines are open for you to call and talk with DC. DCCapstoneReport.com is where you can find out more information.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
From the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center, no wrecks and traffic looks good as we start our Tuesday morning. We do expect rain, in fact, some heavy at times, so please drive carefully. And if you see conditions, give us a call. Now's the time to trade in and trade up to a brand new Nissan at your hometown dealer, Townsend Nissan. I'm Captain Ray.
Hello, this is Martin Houston with the Martin Houston Show, and I want to tell you about one of our great sponsors, Overflow Express Wash. Their mission is to provide great customer service with a showroom clean car and an exceptional customer service experience. They have the basic car wash that starts at $7, but you need to check out the premium wash packages, which start as low as $12 and go up to $20. They also have a membership wash club that you can get for starting at $23.99, going up to $39.99. In other words, just double the regular premium package. Drop a penny, and you can be one of the great members of Overflow Express Wash. My family and I keep our cars looking good inside and out by using Overflow Express Wash. They're located on Skyland Boulevard right next door to Alabama 1, or you can find them online at overflowexpresswash.com. Andy Phillips and his team look forward to making you a part of their team.
Hello, I'm a unicorn. Yes, one of those. Everyone's tried to find me, but most can't, unless they're ZipRecruiter. If you've hired before, you understand it's quite hard to find a unicorn. You know, someone who's perfect for your role. So how does ZipRecruiter do it so quickly? ZipRecruiter's technology matches your job up with the right people for your role and invites them to apply. So you get brilliant candidates fast.
Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Nick Saban calls it the process. John Maxwell said that everything rises and falls on it. And Coach Wooden said it's what you learn after you think you know it all that makes the difference. What am I talking about? Leadership and personal development. Is your organization, your school, your church, your family, are they receiving the proper level of leadership development and personal development? If not, the Empowerment Center for Leadership and Mentoring can help you with that. We have our Pep Talks, which is a 1 to 1.5 hour lunch and learn, which we can customize to meet your needs, or we have some topics that we present that we know can help your organization. And if you're looking for one-on-one mentoring and coaching, we can also assist you with that. Visit peptalks35.com. That's peptalks35.com, or send an email to martin@martinhouston.org. That's the Empowerment Center for Leadership and Mentoring.
Welcome back to the Martin Houston Show, the sound of Bama sports. Your show, your team, on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Overflow Express Wash, Overflow Express Wash. The second location is officially open and ready over in Northport. Go by all the folks over in Northport at 3205 Hunter Creek Road, Northport, Alabama. The second location of Overflow Express Wash is open for business. Andy Phillips and his team have put together a great business there, helping you keep your car clean inside and out. If you're on that side of town, or if you're on the over off of Skyland Boulevard, 90 Skyland Boulevard East is the original location here in Tuscaloosa. Both are going to give you great service, great quality. That's Overflow Express Wash. All right, DC, tell our listeners real quick before we forget. Kind of, I know you transitioned a little bit, do things a little different during this time, but tell them what you got going on, where they can keep up with you at.
Yeah, you can go to the DCCapstoneReport.com or DC Capstone Report Facebook page. You can always follow us on RollTideBama.com or FreelancePictures.com. Lance puts up a lot of great videos during this little bit downtime after the spring game before the summer practice begins. So we'll be back with the previews of the upcoming season. And until then, we got some great videos. You can also follow me on Twitter at DavidCott50.
All right, that's DC Capstone Report. DC, we got Tom. You're such a popular guest, and I don't call you a guest. I call you guest co-host since you're on with me so time. So I want to ask you a question. Tom, you're in the Martin Houston Show with DC Capstone Report. What you got for him?
Morning, Martin. DC, Martin Drive. We really look forward to Tuesday mornings with you and Martin. It's always so good. So thank you for coming on. Thanks for taking my call.
Well, thanks so much, Tom. It's always great to hear from you.
You know, in New York, they have this digital screen, and it's constantly running with the national debt. Have y'all ever seen a picture or video of that?
I think I've seen it.
Yeah, you know, it's just constantly. I mean, you can look at it and you'll get so depressed, you know. But anyway, I was thinking about this during the post draft, and I think we need to put one up on Denny Stadium similar to that, and it should reflect what the NFL owes Alabama players. And that number has got to be getting up there around $1 billion. I don't know what it is, but
this year alone,
it's amazing. It's amazing. Talk about creating value for your players. I mean, can enough be said about the system in place with Coach Saban and his staff and all the administrators, and everything that goes into it about creating value for the players?
Tom, this year alone, it's estimated, not the free agents, and everybody forgets the free agents sometimes, but just the 10 draft picks is projected to be $135 million. Just this year alone. That's not counting the guys who have got that second contract, and you know, the Julio Jones, his individual contract is that much. So, yeah, it's probably close to $1 billion.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, and I throw the national debt digital screen out there to be funny, but it's really serious that what opportunities have been created for these young men, and I'm really pleased to see them do so. Well, I want to bring this up too. The character that was reflected by the young men in the draft. Alabama kind of led the way, in my opinion, on when they were interviewed, the way they responded, the way they carried themselves, the way they looked, the whole 9 yards. Get y'all to talk about that. Thanks for taking my call.
Thanks, Tom. Go ahead, DC.
Well, I think that's one thing that we don't talk enough about is we talk about Alabama preparing players for the draft and creating value for themselves. And I think they do that. We know they come in with some athletic ability, and we help improve that and help them get better and at that. But that's not the only thing that Coach Saban has brought to the table. He's brought a more professional mentality, professional culture, if you will. And you see it in the way they answer questions. You see it in the way that they handle themselves. And I think several times you heard Coach Saban talking about people in the war rooms, the draft rooms, talking about, hey, this player, this John Doe player, he does this, but, and talk about the buts that happened in his career, what he doesn't do right. And he says, but what you want to happen is you talk about this John Doe player who does all these great athletic things, and he has added something to it with his character and the way he handles himself and the way he handles business. And so that is what Coach Saban has brought to this team that goes often overlooked. But why, if all things are equal, you take an Alabama player because they handle themselves well, you don't have to worry about it in your system. Do you agree with that, Martin?
Absolutely. There's an article that referenced what you're talking about that was written last week. It says the talent is, if you don't have the talent, you're not going to be on the board. But if you're on the board, the next thing that happens in that room is he's really good. He's one of the best wide receivers, and he's great for the community. He's a great teammate. He's great in the locker room. He's easy to coach. And then they said, but what you want to stay away from is, but he has a drug test. But he has a domestic violence. But he has this issue. But he's hard to coach. But he's not a good. And that's what you want to avoid. Thus, to Craig Wooden's point, he says one pick that I was shocked about was Leatherwood in the first round. How much of the and factor, based on what we saw and how Leatherwood, whether you agree with BLM or not, how he showed leadership during that time this past summer in rallying his team and holding them all together along with his talent. They had seen how Josh Jacobs carried himself coming from the Nick Saban program. Is that what got Leatherwood taken at that spot?
I don't think there's any doubt that in that room they needed the tackle, and they went after a great athletic tackle. There were many in that draft that could have gone, and they were on that same level playing field. But I think Mike Mayock knows the Alabama system. He knows what kind of character the young man had, and I think that was the determining factor. It was the it factor. He called it the it factor. And I think he has it, not just athletic ability, but he has it, the way he's going to carry himself, the way he's going to seamlessly come in and be a part of the Rutgers organization. And Mayock said, hey, this is going to be a controversial pick. Well, it was only controversial because no one thought he would go that high in the draft, but he saw things in him that because of his the culture that he was brought up in at Alabama, made him want to take him above anybody else. And I think that's important.
Absolutely. So, hey, come back on the other side, DC. We're going to do kind of a little rapid fire for you, get your takeaways, your winners, losers, good, bad, and ugly. And I want you to think about something James and I talked about earlier. The most wasted 10 minutes of the draft was us waiting 10 minutes and some change on Trevor Lawrence being the first overall pick. We're speaking with DC Capstone Report on the Martin Houston Show on Tide 100.9. We'll be back in just a moment.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
From the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center, no wrecks and traffic looks good as we start our Tuesday morning. We do expect rain, in fact, some heavy at times, so please drive carefully. And if you see conditions, give us a call. Now's the time to trade in and trade up to a brand new Nissan. At your hometown dealer, Townsend Nissan, I'm Captain Ray.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa thread.
Good morning. Scattered thunderstorms already taking place across the area. Some of these could become severe. The main threat, though, will be damaging winds and large hail, with tornadoes possible this afternoon. A slight risk. From Tuscaloosa north, brief tornadoes are possible, damaging winds to 60 miles per hour and quarter-size hail. A marginal risk, Tuscaloosa south. Threats there are less likely, but cannot be ruled out. Operation Stormwatch will keep you updated throughout the day. I'm Don Hartley, Town Square Media, Tuscaloosa. Hello, this is Martin Houston with the Martin Houston Show, and I want to tell you about Tuscaloosa Custom Curbing. If you're looking for a way to add value to your home, make your flower beds pop, make your landscaping stand out from your neighbors, then Tuscaloosa Custom Curbing can help you do just that. They have numerous styles, but they feature the Moroccan Stone Curb Series, which includes 4 great styles and unlimited color choices. That's Tuscaloosa Custom Curbing. They are the one that can help you stand out from your neighbors. Tuscaloosa Custom Curbing, 205-331-6823. You may also find yourself with the need for a custom size stone or custom.
All right, welcome back into the Martin Houston Show. Time for a little rapid fire with DC Capstone Report, DCCapstoneReport.com. DC, what's your biggest takeaway or takeaways from the NFL draft?
Well, I think it was a little bit. In my opinion, the biggest takeaway was I think Mac Jones going at 15 to New England. For me, that was the biggest takeaway of this draft. Belichick sits there where he didn't have to move, didn't make any moves when all the people were saying he was going to go higher. He knew what he was doing, stayed right there, and picked the guy that he wanted all along at number 15. I think that's great for Mac Jones, great for New England. So I think that's one of the biggest takeaways I have from the draft.
All right, how you feeling about Dylan Moses falling? I use that term completely out of the draft.
Well, I mean, it's a big surprise for me. I was surprised that he fell that far. I thought sure he was at least the worth of third, fourth round pick. In my opinion, I think a lot of folks have scared about his injuries. I think he's going to do well at the next level. I just feel like that there's a lot of football left in him, and it was unfortunate for me. I hope that he has the insurance policy that he had a couple of years ago. Hope that helps him secure some of that value that replaced some of the value they lost due to the injury.
Did Nick Saban talk to Urban Meyer and help seal that deal, in your opinion?
I would say so. I would say that he also talked to Dylan Moses and said, hey, where would you like to go? And I think that he wanted to go somewhere in the South. He wanted to play, and I think that relationship with Coach Saban has with the other NFL coaches, where he could have just called and got him a free agent contract anywhere. So I think it was a communication on both sides there with Coach Saban.
I have a rapid fire question for both of you guys, if I could.
Go ahead.
Out of all the Alabama players drafted in the first round, who has the best career in your opinion? It's just a shot in the dark.
No,
I think Surtain, based on where he went to the Denver Broncos and their cornerbacks that they have now, I think he is going to bring the best value to the team of start, and I think he'll have the best longevity career over his whole long career.
I could easily go along with that, but with the way media covers things, I think it'll end up being one of the skill position guys, because Surtain, if he does a great job, you don't talk about him as much, and he'll be an all-pro. But I think Najee and or Waddle may end up because of the way they'll be using their offense. Now, their careers may not be as long as Surtain. I think he may have the longest career behind him, and that'd be between him and Mac. So, good question, man. That's
really great question.
Great question. That's worth one of those debate things right there. Greatest college reaction ever to a draft pick. Does that award go to Thomas Fletcher?
That's Thomas Fletcher. I think he was real. He was real on that video. He was genuinely surprised.
Yeah, I told someone, he said I walked my blank to Carolina. He was excited. Does that not show you the power of the NFL draft? And that's what I mean by how the media makes it about what they say versus how these kids really respond. Had no one told Justin Fields or Mac Jones or any of these kids where they were going to go, and they woke up and got picked by these teams, and we had no public record, they'd all be more excited than what they are, because when you get drafted amongst the 259 players in the world that gets drafted in a single year, you are an elite athlete and worthy to be praised. So, what any closing thoughts in terms of the NFL draft?
Well, I think a lot of the media hype was the big deal in all this thing. I really believe that Mac Jones going third with all media hype. He was always picked down on the lower first round, 15th vote. A lot of people hadn't thought it from earlier. So I think the media can do some things to blow things out of proportion. I think my biggest loser in this draft had to be the Green Bay Packers. I mean, they lose publicity across the board, and then don't have a good draft at all.
They're not done losing either. They're not done losing.
They're snowballing out of control, literally. DC, one quick question for you: true or false? Was the biggest waste of time taking 10 minutes and some change to make a pick that's been predicted for 8 years and some change? 7 years and some change.
Absolutely true. Biggest waste of time of the draft. We all knew he was going first. We could have started with the second pick.
We should have just started with the second pick. DC, we'll have to catch back up with you next week. Maybe even get you on for a little bonus coverage this week. And know things are going well for you. We'll keep everybody connected with you, but we'll catch back up with you next week. Thanks, DC.
Thanks so much, Martin. Have a great day, and roll tide.
Roll tide at DC Capstone Report. DC Capstone Report. At David Cott 50. I'm Martin Houston. That's DC. That's James Ludeman. James, tell them real quick what you got coming up.
Tonight, Title Talk 7 to 10 right here on Tide 100.9, talking Alabama softball winners and losers of the draft, and gonna have chaos from 7 to 10 tonight. All
right, that's the lewd man right there. Hey, remember this: trust in the Lord always, lean not in your own understanding, all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your path. Roll Tide.
It's a celebration. Thank you for listening to the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app. Tide 100.